Today we're going to talk about 2.1, the Quakers. So in 1647, George Fox founded the Religious Society of Friends, also known as the Quakers. Make sure you know that they're known as the Society of Friends. That's pretty important. So Quakers often got in trouble and went to jail because they didn't attend the Church of England or take off their hats for the king. And the main reason for that is that they thought that everyone was created equal, and the Quakers did. And so they did not think that one person like the king or queen should have more control than everyone else. And therefore they really did not respect the power that the king had, and because they thought everyone should be created equal. And they also did not like the Church of England because they believed, because everyone was equal, that them themselves could speak directly to God through prayer, and that they did not have to go through the Church of England or the king in order to speak to God. So Quakers, they believed in living a simple life. They believed in peace and treating others fairly. They were very anti-war. They did not like causing problems. But in Europe, they caused problems just because of their beliefs were different than everyone else. They really weren't bad people. It's just they were different. They were an outcast. Their beliefs were very different than the average person from England. They also thought all people were created equal, like I said earlier, and even Indians. So when they do end up coming to the New World, they wanted to share the land with the Indians, whereas most Europeans wanted to steal the land from the Indians. So the Quakers, once again, they were different than everyone else. They even believed that Indians, were equal to them, and that Europeans were no better than Indians. And they also believed that women were just as powerful as men, which was very uncommon at this time. And that at this time, most societies believed that men had, much more power than women, and that men could only men could serve in the church, only men could serve in the government. To where in the Quaker society, a lot of times the women could have leadership roles in the churches because they thought women were just as powerful as men. This is very important, especially for the STAR test. The Quakers were the first anti-slavery society. So they did have slaves early on when they came to America. Even William Penn, who we're going to talk about in a second, he had some slaves of his own. But they're going to be the first group in the New World to try to end slavery. So you could really say that they were the first abolitionists, the first people that wanted to abolish or get rid of slavery in the New World. And the reason for that is, they thought everyone was created equal. So the Quakers first came to Massachusetts to escape the Church of England. So they leave England, get on a boat, cross the Atlantic Ocean, and they end up settling in the Massachusetts Bay Colony with the Puritans. Now, to give you some background of the Puritans are a group of people that were kind of frustrated with the Church of England. They wanted to make a better church. They wanted to make a purified version of the Church of England. They wanted to make a better, cleaner version of it. So these Puritans come over to Massachusetts, and they're going to settle near Boston, present-day Boston, and they're going to have the highest of living standards. You had to attend church all the time. They were very strict when it comes to church, a lot like the Church of England. And this, once again, the Quakers did not fit in. The Quakers, they wanted to be able to, study their own religion and talk to God without having to go through a church to do it. And so, once again, they're not going to fit in Massachusetts either. So they need somewhere they can go to escape the judgment from the Puritans. So you have William Penn, who is a Quaker. He was born in England. His father was a famous admiral in the British Navy. So a admiral is basically the person that is in charge of the Navy. And the British Navy at this time was one of the strongest navies in the world. Their military was very good. Their Navy was very good. And William Penn's father, he was in charge of it. And so he was a very wealthy person, very close to the king. And William Penn is the son, and later on he's going to end up turning into a Quaker. So the Charter of 1681. So when William Penn's father, who was in charge of the British Navy, he's going to end up passing away. And King Charles II had owed him money. And to pay off the debt, William Penn, instead of asking for money, he asked the king, can you give me land in the New World instead of money? And so the king is going to say yes. And so he gives him the Charter of 1681. Now, William Penn wanted to name this new colony in the New World. He wanted to name it Slovenia, which means woods. You can see in the picture there, Pennsylvania has lots of trees. There's lots of timber, pretty trees, and so that's why he wanted to name it Slovenia. But the king wanted William to name it after his father. So they compromised and they call this new colony Pennsylvania. So Penn, who later becomes a Quaker, invited the Quakers that were in the Boston area in the Massachusetts colony. He invites the Quakers to settle in Pennsylvania to escape the judgment from the rest of the world, and especially the Puritans. So these Quakers are going to leave England and try to escape the Church of England. They come to the New World, and they basically end up in a place that's just like England. That's why the Boston area, Massachusetts area is known as New England, because the lifestyle was still very, very similar to the way it was in Old England. And so William Penn, thankfully, comes in and saves them, gives them a religious refuge, somewhere to go to basically have freedom of religion, somewhere where they're not going to get judged and they can do what they want.